Right. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
coming on and doing this. I really
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me, Paul.
No, not at all. And for anyone listening, my audience, they probably have probably come across your work already, or at least seen you in perhaps in the chat on a regular basis or in the comment sections. You yourself obviously have been kind of on the internet for a while. You have your own YouTube channel, Beck from Oz, and you post quite a lot of things on there, but mainly UFO phenomena. And we kind of had an interesting conversation just a few nights ago. I think maybe it was like 2 or 3 nights ago now. And I kind of reached out to you saying, you should come onto the channel. You should share what you found because you've got some really great videos, which we're going to get
Mm.
into today of very um, familiar UFO sightings, shall we say, the orbs in the sky phenomena. And I'm always thankful to kind of speak with people who kind of like boots on the ground, looking for this stuff to prove to other people it really is happening. We're not just making this up because I've witnessed these things myself,
Mm.
you know. And when I saw your
Mm.
video where you it literally danced in front of you, I was like, that's
Mm.
exactly what I've seen. And finally, we've got it on camera. We've got him. We've got the evidence. So thank you, first of all, just for what you do in general online. I appreciate it. And thanks for coming on today just to share your testimony with my audience. So we'll get straight into this. We kind of have a bit of a loose plan, don't we? Some
Yeah,
discussion points.
well, you helped me out a lot by that little bullet point you sent me. It's made it a lot easier to
Yeah,
to try and condense what I'm going to try and get across. So yeah,
good. Yeah,
thanks
so
for
like I
that.
said, no problem. Like I said, I listened to our last conversation. I kind of heard all the points you had to make. And I think we've got a bit of a coherent show for the guys today that we can kind of get through them. And
We
I
hope
suppose
so.
my first question to you, Beck, really is, um, what would you say your first encounter with the spiritual world was, and how did this experience follow you throughout your journey to God?
Yeah. It was good to reflect on it again, Paul, after we spoke, because it was something I hadn't thought about for many years. I'd locked that one away. But my first encounter was when I was 6 years old, and it was a physical and a spiritual encounter at the same time. And it's something I don't really want to sort of talk about. However, I knew then that there was, things beyond my understanding, and I knew that it wasn't just, something that I'd made up. And being 6 years old, of course, I didn't tell anybody, nobody at all. And the only person in my whole life that ever spoke to me about the Most High, our Father, was my grandfather, who was
Mm.
my father. Um, anyway, so that encounter, I will just say too, my mother was into, not my mother, sorry, my grandmother, who was my mother, was into witchcraft and reading tarot cards and stuff like that. So my first encounter was in their house when I was 6 years old. And then 2 years after that, I was in bed with my grandmother and she died while I was
Mm.
with her. She was telling me a nursery rhyme and she died. And I wasn't that close to my grandmother. She was my mother, mind you. I was told these people were my parents. And I was left with my grandfather. So, really, then another year passed after she passed away, and he killed himself because he could not deal with it.
Mm.
Now, what I think these dark entities do is they seek out people who are traumatized from a young age from something that a part of them's been taken away. Now, even though I was traumatized by this entity before my grandmother died and before my grandfather killed himself a year later, um, they knew what this somehow they sort of know what's going to happen or something. I don't want to go too far into that, but I have an inkling that these things sort of know your life's journey a bit, but you
Mm.
can always throw that off. So after my grandfather died, um, I was shipped off to my mother and my stepfather, and that wasn't good. That wasn't good anyway. But I really want to emphasize that, yeah, I think these entities go after certain people and bloodlines. I will disclose I am an O negative, and I know that I am different. I just know it. I don't know why. I'm crazy different. Anyway, so I'm going to skip ahead from my childhood now, from that 6-year-old one to
Mm.
1989. And my husband and I, we were dating, and we thought it'd be pretty funky to um, do a Ouija board. You know,
Mm.
this drunk one night, right? Drunk one night. And we made it up ourselves. And we had a little shot glass that we were actually drinking the alcohol out of, and we were pushing that around. That was funny until it took off by itself. Now, we didn't really think much about that, Paul, at the time.
No.
We just went, oh, whatever. And then it would have been later in that year. Yeah, it was Christmas in that year. So that was in the early part of the year. Later in the year, we went to Mackay. So we were in Brisbane. We were on the Gold Coast, actually. And we went up North Queensland, where it's just lovely. And we were staying with my future. It's my future husband. So let's just say my husband was staying at my husband's parents' house. And okay, I've tried to figure out how to break this down as easy as possible. And I spoke to my husband about it last night because I had to remember that his part of what happened to him in this experience was a little bit different to mine.
Mm.
Uh, this was amazing. So all I know was I was asleep, he was asleep, and everything was okay. It was Christmas Eve, and I woke up, and I thought I was in a dark tunnel or a cave or something. I did not know where I was at all. And I felt I I've never felt it since like this. I've felt it, but not like this. I felt the evil there. And I started to cringe. I was just absolutely terrified. Then I sort of come to and knew that, oh, that's right, I'm not in my room, I'm in Mackay. And I looked and there was a window. There were two windows. It was a very old house. And they had sills coming out of them. You might know this, Paul, from in England. Same sort of style of old building in Australia.
Mm.
And I realized, like I said, I realized where I was, and I stood up out of the bed in absolute fear. My heart's racing now. It's triggering me. I don't relive this. I'm a tough old girl. This don't happen to me. Okay. So I stood up out of that bed next to the wall, next to those two windowsills, and I knew that evil wanted me and it wanted me dead. And that was kind of the thought I had. And then I felt the blow. I felt the force of being pushed into the wall at a really high rate. And the two windowsills they got me on the arm and on the leg, and that was the proof in the pudding of what had happened, that it wasn't my imagination, because the bruises were about that wide where the sill had hit on my arm and that wide on my leg.
Mm.
Okay, now at the same time, hopefully I can come out of that trauma now, because I'll talk about him. That's what happened to me. And I was just going, I'm going to jump out of these windows. I'm going to jump out of this house. That's all I knew after it pushed me in. And then because he woke up and he spoke my name, everything broke. It was like the whole spell or whatever it was broke. And I do believe this was from the seance. It followed us 1,000 kilometers.
Mm.
Um, so at the same time that was happening to me, my husband said he saw me be shot out of a deep, dark cave. He was having sleep paralysis while that was going on. While my thing was going on, He was having a sleep paralysis attack, which he did have them. But this one he said was severe, and he saw me come out of the roof of that house, or he didn't know we were in a house, out of a dark cave,
Hmm.
just like I had thought happened to me.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
absolutely. Well,
it's an
it's not interesting.
interesting.
It's not just interesting. It's terrifying as well, and obviously,
Uh,
um,
yeah, it
a tough
was,
thing, a
and
very tough thing to go through, I imagine.
but I didn't even realize that I had a target on my head even then,
Hmm.
because it had only been a couple of things that happened at that
Yeah.
point. So I didn't realize I was targeted. So let me just have a look at my notes because that shook me up a little bit.
So, do you think the
Let me
Ouija
know
board
whenever you
was?
want.
Do you think the
Pardon?
Ouija board was the reason for this? Then, do you think that's kind of what opened you up later
Yeah,
on in life? Yeah. Yeah. Do you think the
that was the
six-year-old attack was related, or do you think that was more of a?
that was generational through my grandmother.
You think so?
I think
Yeah.
I do. I do. And
Hmm.
I think then once I opened the door, without
Yeah.
realizing it, stupidity, and that's how they get to us is through our ignorance.
Hmm.
Um, then it had a foothold.
Hmm.
But it all turns out for the good. We know that, right?
Absolutely.
But I will,
Absolutely.
yeah. So um, now, mind you, Paul, at this point, when all that had happened, like I said, I'd only had my grandfather in my life ever tell me about the Lord, anything at all. So I was really an atheist. I thought when you died, you died, you went to dust. I was a nihilist. That's what I
Hmm.
was, a nihilist. I really thought that after this, there was nothing. And mate, I was sticking with that. And nobody was going to tell me different. So I
Hmm.
can understand a lot of these people who go, no, don't want to hear about it. You conspiracy theorist idiots. Because I really was, no, don't tell me about God. Don't tell me. When you die, you die. So I've got, see, they knew, they must have had an inkling, the dark force, that some people are chosen because it said he, the Bible says he calls everybody, but it's like only few will answer. But then there is another scripture that says few are chosen.
Hmm.
So I don't sort of, it's something I'd like to study out a bit harder too, you know?
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So that's something, that's food for thought for all of us. I'm just going to have a look at these notes I wrote here. So
Sure.
after that, I'm going to keep that attack there because I don't want to trip out again.
Of course.
Um, yeah, that was enough of that. So that was 1989. My husband and I weren't married. We just started dating. And then we moved to Mackay. We moved to the place where the attack happened,
Hmm.
right? And then 5 months later, in 1995, I got born again. And I got born again through, I was a singer in rock bands. I'm a musician myself, Paul, so I didn't tell you that. And
Hmm.
uh, what happened was my drummer in the band, he was this conspiracy theorist, and I'd never met one before. And after band practice, he'd say, "Hey, stay back and, you know, I want to tell you some things." And he did. And I don't know, you being in England, you might have heard of Barry Smith. Have you ever heard of Barry
I'm afraid
Smith?
not. I'm afraid not.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So he was a New Zealand based conspiracy theorist pastor.
Hmm.
And in 1995, I started watching his videos that my drummer gave me. And I got born again overnight. I asked the Father if he was real. And I can tell you that night I had angels saying, I'd never even read the Bible. And they were saying Ephesians 5:7. And I was hearing scriptures in my mind. Like I didn't know. I said to my husband, something's going on. I asked the right question. So fast forward again to um, 5 months after I was born again, my husband and I got married. after 6 years. And then at the end of that year, we discovered he had a brain tumor.
Mm.
And he started going blind overnight. That's how we discovered it. So that was a miracle in itself, because there's a whole story there I could go on with, but it's so many things have happened. I want to keep this more at the, you wanted to know about the supernatural phenomenal. I could go on about Father's miracles all day, and maybe we'll do that another time, but I'm going to move on to the attacks that I've had. So after we got married, we were in Mackay, and I got born again. Everything was going great. And then we went on a camping trip to this place called Mount Kathu, which is about 100 kilometres northwest of Mackay. Now, I was really naive to all the, let's say, what we know now about the Masons and their sacrifices in high places.
Mm.
Well, we went camping with just my two children, my husband, and our best friend. And that night, everybody went to sleep. Us four were in our tent, and they went to sleep straight away. And I was just listening to the crickets and just enjoying myself beautifully. And next thing, yeah, I had a hand on my throat, and I realized, hang on, how come I can't breathe? Because, obviously there's nobody there. And it started choking me, and I was going, I was just trying to do anything. It was panic. It was panic. And it went, shh, shh, he, like that real high witchy. But it went, shush, 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 he. And then it went in hard. And I tell you, when you think you're going to die, you want to know Jesus, because I went, Jesus, no, and boom, it did go. I'm a witness. I'm a fair dinkum witness. The name of Jesus will take away demons. Take them away, cast it out, gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a frightening one. That was, yeah, but that was quick. That was sort of the other one in Mackay. This was Mackay again. Mm-hmm. I got saved in Mackay. I got attacked in Mackay the first time. And then it started from there. So once again, I survived that. I also had a trailer fall on me and nearly wasn't able to get out of it when I was a child. I just remembered that I nearly died I was 6 then too, because my father had a big trailer up against a fence with no wheels on it. And my cousin and I were playing ball, and the ball went under, and somehow I knocked the trailer on me, but it was a double big car carrier one. And he was shocked and standing there, and my stepfather walked out and he saved my life. I know, like my husband, he said once, I don't think God loves me because nothing ever happens to me. It always happens to you. So, and I'm like, no way. You don't want these things to happen to you. Some things happening to me, like that's not it. So, but since then, since his UFO experience, which is we're going to get to in a minute, now he knows, and now he knows, and now he knows. Okay, so my first miracle I witnessed with somebody else was my daughter. That was in Mackay. I'll just say the two quick miracles. My daughter was instantly healed of a terrible, like a gastro, but she was so bad that she was vomiting bile. And I was so scared to take her to the hospital because I've always been funky about hospitals. And I was in a little Pentecostal church then, and so I rang the pastor's wife, and she drove all the way out to our country house, and she prayed, and that girl got up the next day and won an 800-meter regionals championship to go on to the state titles. That's why, like, we were praying. It's so important. We like it cost us $500 and everything, but we were more worried about her health. She got really badly ill, like stricken, and then healed and went on to win the
Mm.
race. So there's just enough, I'll just throw that in there for nothing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I had my miracle in Mackay. My miracle is amazing. I was a swimmer, and my husband and I also ran a tree lopping business. And so my shoulders over my years have undertook a lot of stress. Now this was about 1998, and this visiting pastor came, and he was a real rough nut, and he wasn't the normal dressed nicely pastor, but I thought he was just a bit weird, to be honest with you.
Mm.
And anyway, he made an altar call for healing. It's freezing here. That's why it's so cold in Australia at the moment. Um, he made an altar call, and I had had my shoulders were so bad at this point I couldn't hang washing on the line. I was for quite a long time, and my movement was all like robotic. And um, so I got up. Well, the altar call was very specific because he was saying certain things. Oh, there's a man here with a heart problem, and you go, oh, there could be 10 of them.
Mm.
So he goes, there's a woman here, woman with shoulder problems, but it's both her shoulders. It was I can't remember the exact words, but it was specific. So I stood up. I sort of did it under duress, really. I was like, well, I know. I don't even know why I got healed, really, thinking back. I don't know why. I do, but I didn't deserve it at this point.
Mm.
Not on that day. Um, I was doubting the man and not having faith in Father. Anyway, he started praying and he put his hands on and da da da, and he prayed. And then I felt something. I did, but I thought, oh, it's just his hands. And then he said, okay, now give glory to God, raise your arms. And I went, I'm not doing that because that would be like I'd scream in pain in front of everybody in a big auditorium. And he said, and I looked him in the eyes, like with this fear. I'm sure he saw the fear in my eyes. And he goes, no, raise your arms. And I did. And it didn't come back. So I don't know if you've had any healings, Paul.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
No,
I feel like I've always been looked after my entire life by some hidden force that I can't really explain. I've had that kind of experience. About everything
yeah,
has always seemed to work out quite well when it seemed like it was just going to go absolutely south to the worst possible conclusions. It always actually works out quite well, and in some way I gain, and that's always a phenomenon I've kind of witnessed throughout my life. Like, and I always say, like, I don't understand how that worked out. They should not have worked out that way. I've had plenty of those moments, but no miraculous healings in my life. But I'm young. I don't think I've really experienced much damage yet to require healing. I get my knee acts up a little bit every now and then, and I have hemochromatosis, so I, if I have too
I
much
know.
iron, I have problems. But
Mm.
I mean, I was looking to catch. I think it's a miracle I caught that early because most people catch that when they're too late and the liver's already damaged. I'm young, of course, it very early, and now I can live a full, healthy life,
Yeah,
keeping it under control, and there'll be no issues or health complications for me as a result. So I consider
yeah,
that a miracle in its own its own respect, to be honest. Um,
absolutely.
but nothing like hands healing for me yet. But I'm open to it. I'm not saying I think it's possible. I think all things are possible through God. I don't think the gifts of healing or anything like that has ceased. Why would it?
No, no, it
Absolutely no,
didn't. No,
no.
no, this is proof. Like you know, it didn't. Nothing ceased. But see, you said the magic thing. You said nothing's happened. You're 30. I'm 60 in November. This started happening to me when I was 30.
Hmm.
All
So
of
it's right around the
this.
corner then. It'll be soon enough, no
You're next.
doubt. Yeah, I'm next.
No, so you're next. Okay, so I'll continue. Um, yeah, I said about that. Now, yeah, so after this is how I wrote this too. It's quite funny. After 15 years of the Pentecostal thing,
Mm,
because we were saying to our friends, why do you guys worship Benny Hinn and Joyce Meyer? These people are really weird. And they were like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and diligently watching all the Christian programs. And so we left Mackay for a couple of reasons, but it was mainly for our children because we didn't want them ending up in the mines, which is all mining up there. So, but I called it my back to Egypt. We come back to Egypt, which was Brisbane, Gold Coast, for, for economy reasons. And then, like, I just lived like the devil when I got back here. I don't know what happened to me. I was partying. It was like I went back into my days of rock and roll in a way. And my kids were older. Now they were off my hands, they were living here.
mm,
My house became a halfway house, and it was great. It was really good, actually, if you were in the worldly scene. But then in 2018, my granddaughter was born exactly a year before. And in 2018, I was helping my daughter prepare for my granddaughter's first birthday, my first granddaughter, my first grandchild. It was a big deal to me this day. And I'll never forget it. It was the 13th of January, 2018. So we're getting all ready and preparing all the little, setting up the table, setting everything up. And all of a sudden, I felt nauseous. And I've got an iron gut, and I felt very nauseous. So I headed to this tree and I just started puking behind this tree really, really badly. It was
mm,
just awful. And then I realized why I started puking about 10 minutes later. The pain hit me. We still don't know what it was. It was like a sciatica nerve thing. But this thing I used to punch my leg to try and ease the pain. I was on my lounge for 5 months. I was in that much pain. Um, Nothing helped. It didn't. So after, I don't know, it might have been about a month, my daughter bought me a tablet and goes, here, mum, this is because she knew I didn't like TV. I never liked TV. Back in the day, we didn't have a TV in Mackay. So I kind of kept the media programming at a minimum, if you know what I mean.
mm-hmm.
And I stuck with just, yeah, not listening to them in that way. At least that wasn't happening in my life. But so I got very ill for no reason, got the tablet, and then here we are. Now, however, as I said, I did have a history which I just kept forgetting. In 1989 and right back then, 1995 when I got saved, of Barry Smith, and knowing about the Illuminati and the Freemasons and all the dark elements of witchcraft too. I was learning. That's where I learned it, and then just forgot about it, which you shouldn't. And then that happened, and then I'm back in the rabbit hole. It was like time warp, I suppose.
Mm,
And um, so that was on the 13th of January 2018. I'll just fast forward for a sec. On the 13th of January this year, my husband had a heart attack. Just about died right here, right in front of me. And he was supposed to be at work at that day. And if he would have went to work that day, they might have found him because he would have been up paddock by himself. And it was only because our grandson was staying over an extra day that he was at home. And yeah, I will cut a long story short. Um, the Holy Spirit told me, get aspirin now, which I did, put them under his tongue before anything, watched him go in and out, you know, yeah. Um, oh, that's a hard one. I don't want to see that again. Righto. And called the ambulance, and here we are. he had a stent put in. It was 90% blocked on one side. He's a little fellow, so don't ever think it's just fat people that have, and he's not VC'd, nothing of that. So a heart attack can happen. Yeah, he's in his early 60s, but he had 90% blockage on one side and 40, and he's still got 40 on the other. So I'm keeping an eye on him. And I caught him eating biscuits last night, like sweet biscuits. And I got pretty angry at him. But so yeah. So okay, I've lost plot. Hang on. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay. Okay. Let's go in to Anzac Day. Now, about 8 years ago on Anzac Day here, my husband and I, we were just out there. We were having a Anzac Day beer because it's like your Memorial Day, and in the United States as well, I believe. And we had a little girl here we were babysitting, and she, we were running around having a good day. Everything was fine. My husband walked in from behind me, this door here, and said, I've just seen a flock of birds that turned out not to be a flock of birds. It turned into a craft. And I went, what? Like, I didn't think he was crazy because my husband doesn't make stories up. So I ran out the front. And by the time, because he told me out here. So we ran around the front. And by the time we got around the front, we can't work out if it was the same craft. We still, to this day, we're not sure, because it seemed that one went, but then this other, what you would call a flock of birds, do you know when geese sort of fly together and they look a bit wavy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it did that, but then it went form. It took form, and it was solid black, and I could see the shine on the back. There was no lights. There was no sound. And the three of us, my husband and I and the little girl, the poor little girl, she was terrified. She started screaming. I told her it was the police. They're just making sure everybody's all right. Now, I spoke to my husband about this last night, Paul, just to refresh my memory too, because it's been 8 years. And he said, you could have threw a rock at it, remember? And I'm like, wow. In my mind, it was close. And I knew that's what we were going, oh my gosh, it's so close. And then it just went. Now, I'm 20 kilometres from Brisbane City, from the main Brisbane's only a small city, sure, as in what your cities are in England and the States. But I'm still 20 kilometres from the city. And this thing was right here. Fast forward, it just went. Then it just went. All right. Fast forward 4 years. That was 8 years ago. 4 years later, same day of the year, I look over in a different direction this time, and I went, is that a flock of birds? And we both just laughed, and then it wasn't funny anymore. It happened again. We saw it, but this time it was so fast that there was no like, oh, I'm ready this time, I'll go get the camera. That was gone. So we saw that twice. I don't believe that was special projects. I don't believe that was the military. Call me crazy, but I know that thing shifted. Both times it shifted. It wasn't a solid object, and then it was. Now, it's just like that thing I filmed that you showed on your channel, that when you can hear me through the camera, I could see it through the phone and in my eyes. It was there. So this is the same sort of thing. These things were there. And it's so good when you got witnesses, because you're not hallucinating. Okay, so that's the grand thing about that. I don't care if people believe this story or not. This has got nothing on me. I'm going to just cut the cheese with you. Because if somebody told me this, don't think I'd believe you. So one night I got up here in this house. This would be about, that's right. I realised it wasn't long, but I didn't make the connection until you and I spoke, Paul, that this was about 2 months after the UFO incident 8 years ago, that I got up, do your nightly wander to the bathroom, which is just not far from my room, and there's a big hallway, and there's a light. Oh, there's all these windows that you can see out of, and there was two separate rooms, and in the middle of those two separate rooms is an architrave, so a piece of the wall. I went to the bathroom, I came out, and as I always do, I looked down to look out the windows, and how do I say this? There was a short, round-headed, weird-looking thing. And, because I just sort of started getting into all this stuff, this was it, but this was before my awakening, right? Again, this was before 2018 even. I'm pretty sure this was. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So that must have been, so those alien spaceships must have been about 2018. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my timeline in my head right because I did rebuke it. I must have still, I must have been born again. And so much has happened. And so this thing, I couldn't have caught it off guard, right? Because I'd already been into the bathroom. So it knew Dan well. And it just stood in where the light was that first. And as soon as I come out and made eye contact, it stepped back into that architrave bit, into the shadow. I got angry. And I said, in the name of Jesus, I look, honestly, I just remember I felt like really angry. And I walked into my room and I slammed the door and I went to bed. Now, I know that sounds like, what was she on? Drugs, drunk? No, I wasn't. And that thing was in my house. I'm not worried about it. I've never been worried about it a day after that because I know these things come everywhere. They just manifest anywhere. So it's not like, oh, it's this house. There's something wrong with the house. I don't believe in that, guys. I believe these things come and go many places. They travel.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a beauty. That was
I bet.
that was instantly wake the husband up and go oi oi oi, and there was something out here, even
Yeah. So
um
so I mean, it seems like you know having these spiritual experiences very early kind of have only intensified as you've gotten older,
yeah.
and it's like it seems like every time you have a step forward into regaining your faith as well, it's when the attacks come back even harder. Because you said you had, like I said, a bit of a falling back into the world after you moved away from that place, the mining place. And then it seems like you were stopped in your tracks in about 2018, from the story you're telling me, with this terrible hip pain that just put you out, just flat out on your back for 5 months. And obviously, your daughter then said, "Why didn't you look into some of these conspiracies again?" And it seems like it got you straight back into the faith and the truth.
My daughter said, hey mum, you should start a channel because people would probably love listening to your shit you ramble on with. I'm like, oh, thanks.
She's not
But she
wrong.
was the one. She was the one. Oh, but when I get going when I talk about Bible studies and that's when I'm really on fire. This is really lame for me. Like trying to give a testimony. I'm a little bit struggling. I'll be honest with you. Um, I thought I even had it in my head better than this yesterday, Paul. I really did. But
It's hard to tell your own story because you're too in it, you're living it. You can't really see the forest through
yeah,
the trees, you know. And
yeah,
I think you're doing a really good job so far. And I think it was something maybe we discussed last time, which it might be worth bringing up again, is that this experience where you suddenly just had extreme pain and vomiting and were out. I think was not really necessarily a bad thing, but it was God kind of forcing you to slow down in a way and pay attention, using something bad for good in a sense. Would you say
yeah.
that was the case with that event? And
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I'm a maniac. I've got like five different careers. Like he
mm,
had to slow me down because I was just going 1,000 miles an hour. Um, I I'm a driving instructor. I'm a motorcycle instructor. I'm a truck driver. I'm a swimming teacher, and I'm also a personal trainer. And I was juggling all those. Oh, I want to do this month, and then I'll do that. And he slowed
mm,
me down because I put him on the back burner, and I was just running amok. And
mm,
he knew, this one's going to be in trouble if she don't start listening, like
mm,
big time. Um, Mind you, I nearly got T-boned by a truck. He's watching me every second because Satan's really, guys, this is the time you need protection every single minute. Pray. Because I nearly got taken out. I've got two cars and I'm in my little car at the moment. And a big truck, a big Freightliner, nearly turned into me the other day. And the look on that guy's face, the way I'm a good driver, I avoided it. I've not got tickets on myself, guys. I just didn't panic. And if I would have panicked, he would have got me. And the look on his face, he absolutely would have had to change his clothes because he thought he had me. I thought he had me. And it was his fault. And I just think if you're out and about, you're going to have a target on you. So
mm.
don't be scared. Don't be scared. But it could happen. Not
It's interesting you bring up this whole idea of being targeted. I think the concept of a targeted individual is kind of getting a lot more popular these days. I don't mean popular as in it's a good thing. I'm saying people are talking about it a lot more now as realistic and comes under the ideas of, let's say, gang stalking as well. It sounds to me like
yes,
you may have been more spiritually targeted by demons,
exactly.
basically, and I
Exactly.
think in a way, anybody who's for Christ and outspoken about it is targeted by demons heavily. I mean,
Right.
you can't be possessed, but you can certainly be oppressed as a Christian.
Oh yes.
And I feel that too. I think we've all kind of experienced. I mean, you yourself, what do you think it means to be targeted from your perspective, and in what ways has this kind of impacted your life? Do you think?
For me, I know exactly what you just said is correct. It's a spiritual targeting. It's been there since birth.
Hmm.
Um, and like I told you, father was the father to the fatherless, which was me. And so it means to me that I was born in the good bloodline, I believe. Like I chose, even if I was born in a bad bloodline, I've chose to be in the kingdom. And so it means to me that no matter what the kingdom of darkness had for me, it's not going to win. It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
prevail. And
Amen.
the amount of times I've nearly died, we haven't even gone into that. Falling off cliffs and nearly, not, yeah, but that's it. I've lived recklessly, but I've had a really full life. I've been an abseiling instructor as well. Um, and I often wonder why I chose that, all these things. Why did I choose danger anyway while I was targeted?
Mm.
I didn't want to tempt God. It wasn't like that. But once I sort of realized I don't do a lot of the things that I would have, like I would swim anywhere. I mean, I'm a diver as well. I would swim anywhere that I could even just a little bit see out of my mask. I don't do that anymore. I think that was a bit reckless. And, with sharks and places where crocodiles were and whatever. So I think we have to be very careful not to, I wouldn't say tempt God, but put ourselves in situations too that is just silly. And I've
Mm.
learnt now through time, I wouldn't say maturity because I don't think I've ever grown up, but I've learnt through time to be less reckless for those around me. Like I'm a grandparent now, five, I'm needed here. But this targeting thing is real because Satan, I was trying to explain it before, somehow he knows our intent. There is some sort of mind reading going on. Now, we know that, and I'd like to touch on this for a moment because I was thinking something yesterday, just thinking it, and next thing it's on my Facebook feed,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
totally unrelated. So it's been doing it for a long time. What's happened is now we've given it the real channel, which is that black thing there, to be able to really read our minds a lot easier. I think it's made it a lot easier. And if they can read our minds and our intent, they've got a head start on you anyway. So let your intent and your mind be full of good things. Paul said, seek after love, kindness, forgiveness, all these things there is no law against. And that's why we must do that because, and these things are picking up on energies. So people's energies they're putting out will attract them, the dark energies. I'm speaking of them as the dark energies. So if you are putting out hatred or fear, or this is just what I've learnt myself. This is not, oh, this is the gospel, says Beck. This is just fundamental stuff that it's like grassroots, and you'd say it to someone and go, oh, it's just too easy. It's just too easy. But it is what it is. If you walk in the light, you'll be in the light. And that's what I've discovered. And all that time when I was in the darkness was when he really thought he could get me, the enemy. It was like, right, if I kill her now, she's gone. Okay, there is a big bad one. I forgot about this while we were talking. I will bring this up. Do we have time? It won't
Yeah.
take long.
Go for it.
So just before my leg, this makes sense too now, before my hip nerve thing, whatever that was, one night I went to bed as usual, business as usual, everything was good. And it was like what Paul said, or was it John in the Bible? He said, I do not know if I was, what does he say, in body or out of body? Right? There's a scripture that John says, I'm trying to get it. I had such a good memory for the Bible. It's getting worse. I do not know if I was in the body or out of the body, but he had the vision, okay? Now, what happened to me was all I know, I was going to sleep and then I was transported into what I would only call the outer darkness. I have since read the book of Enoch dozens of times, so I know it's there. And I didn't know about it before. No, I think he tried to get me before my leg. I think my leg might have been the last resort for Father to literally say, hey, I'm slowing you down. So I do believe not all things are bad when we get thorns in our side. Absolutely. So
Mm.
I was thrust into this just darkness. Now, all I can say about it, so I said it will only be quick. There was nothing there. There was nobody there. And there was nothing there but me and my thoughts and darkness. Not cold, not hot. Darkness. And it felt like it went on for hours, but it was probably, I don't know, it might have been a minute. I don't even know. I come back from that feeling like that's hell. I've just been to hell because you're by yourself. There is nobody there. There is nothing but you. There is no Father. There's no God, your creator. So, and mind you, I'm a woman. Now, you can cut this out if you want, but I'm a woman and I have done things that is deserving of hell before I had my children. Okay. So I could have very well went to that outer darkness for real. If like he showed me, brought me back, had the leg thing, that was it. I was done. I'm listening, Father. I'm listening. And believe me, I screw up every day, but I try not to. I really, I'm conscious of how I treat everybody now. It's just changed everything. It did. And people go, oh, I got the Holy Spirit now. Everything's going to be just dandy. I'm done. I'm finished. And it doesn't work for them. You know how that happens? And it doesn't work. And they just think all their, troubles are going to be solved overnight. That is the biggest con and lie in the world. It really is. Because every time I've seen somebody in church that happens to, they end up falling apart because it wasn't a genuine conversion. And I think what a genuine conversion is through pain, not even physical pain, mental pain, loss. And that's where Father will meet you, because that's where your rubber will meet the road. But for some reason, he was calling me out of that party lifestyle with all the children here, the halfway house and that, and I wasn't listening. And then he pulled the Out of Darkness card, and then he pulled the hip card. And the hip card was the last card. And here I am. So now I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to cover everything. Okay. So then I started in 2018, after that happened, 5 months later, when my daughter said, people would love listening to your crap, Mum. My son was living here. Everybody was here then. And he set me up with YouTube. And I started that. And then I made an acquaintance on YouTube and we became really good friends. And everybody in the family was aware of him. It wasn't like it was some, secret. And then he got in a jam and he came and lived here and rent-free, everything. It was just, that's what you do. And we started doing some stuff together online. And then we all knew he was a little bit off, but he was off in a good way. Like we didn't think he meant harm anyway. And so he stayed here for like 18 months, but then things went really sour. And I've had a hard time with that. I'm good now, but it took me a long time. It took me a year to try and understand why I was so shafted. All of us, we were all shafted. We all, like our whole family was shafted, not just me, by this person. He actually took things, yeah, and things that weren't his. And then told stories about it later on to other people that he paid all the rent here, that was phenomenal. That cut me because nobody's ever paid rent here. The rent has always come out of my husband's pay because it's the company house. He never even, I told him, you're here for free, mate. Like, I'm just not like that. We were never like that. We're not money hungry. But anyway, that was another lesson in itself. Because he was one of my subscribers, you see. That's how it started. So I got very, very paranoid then about people. And then Jenny came along and I'm like, oh boy, what does this one want? Because I said, oh, I need help building my bird aviary. Like, it's a really big aviary and it's not a one-woman job, and my husband was too busy, and he was working away at the time. And rats were getting in and killing my native birds and stuff. So she answered a thing that I put a comment just joking, oh, I wish I knew a carpenter that was a chick. And we were only saying yesterday, she's lived here now for 8 months, and we were only saying yesterday, we still didn't build that aviary. So, that this is a different story. She's, I got given, I was going to say it the other day to her, but I never did. I got given a devil at first, and then I was replaced it with an angel. So it's worked out really well. But
Mm-hmm.
that was really hurtful because we spent a lot of time online. We did a lot of good live streams, and I feel like I can't even watch them now. I should take them down, but I haven't, just for reference points of information and things that were said, that there was some prophecies given back there. So yeah, that that's where we're at now. Um, but like I said about the experiences, it's happening every day. It's happening every day. There will be something happening. Like I said last night with the bottle, that was just, yeah, wow. And I said to her, wait till this is a good one for the talk tomorrow, because it actually happened right in front of you. Like, because I was saying to her, I feel like some of the things I'm going to say, people are either going to discredit me for, or whatever. They think it's okay. At the end of the day, don't care. Over it. Too old. Too too much of a wall up for that now. Um, because I know that I just wanted to bear witness genuinely and say that Jesus Christ is Lord. He probably did rule. He's been here and he's saved me so many times. There's more, but wait, there's more, and another
Mm-hmm.
day for another
That's
day.
right. I think people don't realize, you mentioning earlier there, weren't you, about how some people like Phil think that, well, I'm born again now, I've been baptized, I've got the Holy Spirit, everything's going to be perfect from now on. And the reality of the situation is, as long as you're alive in the flesh here in the world, that's not going to be your story.
No,
And having God in your life, or being in the kingdom, shall we say, or it doesn't mean prosperity forever and everything's perfect forever, or suddenly you're not going to feel any pain anymore. It's actually, like you said, it's actually the opposite. It means now you're in the middle of a war and you're a soldier and you're on the
wow.
front line, and you're just aware of it now. we all
That's
already
it.
were, but now you're just hyper aware of it. So there's no blissful ignorance anymore. And that comes with pain. With that knowledge comes more suffering, unfortunately. And I guess the comforter of having Jesus is that, in spite of the pain, we keep the faith and we stay positive and we love anyway. And that's radical. That's radical in this world and in this life. And it's not like, I mean, think of the Christians who were martyred and suffered greatly for their faith throughout history. Like, you're not promised perfection and happiness and prosperity and everything you ever wanted just because you turn to God all of a sudden and follow in his ways. If you want to walk
That
like
comes later.
Jesus, if you want to walk in his way, expect to get crucified. Do
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
life suddenly doesn't just become perfect because you have God in it. That's not the
No.
promise. That was not the promise. That's not what Christianity is promising at all. And
Mm-mm.
I think there comes a peace knowing that, in spite of the enemies, of the attacks, of the targeting, of the pain and the misery and the death and the illnesses and everything else in between, it's kind of, God is still good. Like, in this kind of, the world is fallen. You're going to have to go through it. We have an enemy. We're in a war, but he's got your back. And there's these moments of, like I said, miracles that happen in between, where it's kind of like everything's chaos, but you're okay. Your head's above water. You are surviving, and then often, sometimes, hopefully, thriving. But I feel like that's neither here nor there. You may or may not be that way. But I feel like, in a sense, I think someone said this to me once. It's kind of like, now you're like an action figure for God. He's going to use you for whatever he needs to use you for, and put you wherever he needs to put you for his purpose. And if that means you're going to suffer, then you're going to suffer. Or if it means you're going to be prosperous, you're going to be prosperous. You will have no control over it. And I feel like
Mm.
it myself, I've explained like earlier that I feel like, in many ways, many things that have happened in my life, I cannot explain how we got where we are, or why we're here doing this now, or how I survived that particular event, or how that particular event didn't go further south than it should have gone, all that type of stuff. Like things just seem, and I feel like in many ways I'm kind of just being pushed around. Like I'm being moved from one spot to another to do
Yeah.
whatever I need to do. Like he knows, like Paul, I need you here, and you're gonna just do what Paul does, but I need you doing that here right now for this reason that you know nothing about, to impact this random person you probably don't even realize you impacted, because I need them to go off and it's kind of like, it's just that's all it
Yeah.
is. That's all it really, being a part of God is, and I feel like being a part of His kingdom, that's what it is. You're subject to Him. You're subject to the King, and
Yeah.
it comes with a peace. But yeah, again, this idea that there's going to be no suffering, I've never understood that.
I'm not worried now about the
No.
battles. I'm really not, because I feel prepared, because I'm not fighting them.
Hmm.
He's fighting them for me. I just listen. We just listen.
Mm-hmm.
If we listen, because you will hear the voice. I've tested this, unfortunately. If you hear the voice really tell you don't do that, and you do it, 9 times out of 10, if you've heard that voice really strong, there will be a consequence,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So we really, we need to be led by listening. Don't be don't be, you know, what is it? Don't be hearers of the word only, deceiving yourselves, but be doers too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm really big on, like, it's the little things we do. I've always thought this, though, even as a child. Like, I've always rescued animals and, all that sort of stuff. I'm very empathic. So it's the little things Father sees in your heart as well. It's not always the big meat steaks. It can be just the little peanuts sometimes that really means stuff and shows your character. And, everybody has the capacity to work on their own character. So you don't have to go, this is the way I am, and I can't do anything about it. And if God can't fix me, then I'm done. I just don't go for that. And I think that's a lot of, where they say, oh, such and such is mentally ill, and such this person's mentally ill. For me, a lot of that too is, hey, you're using that as a crutch. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are mentally ill. I've worked with the true mentally ill, so I'm not, having a dig at that. But I mean, I truly believe at the end of the day, it's our choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be easy walking this road. It's a mission. Hey, maybe us there, maybe we were all made on the one day of creation. I don't know. And maybe we did say, yes, Father, we will go. Maybe some of us said, we'll go, we'll tell them. And it has not been easy. For me, sometimes I felt like I wanted to swim out to the ocean and never come back on this journey of discovery. When people didn't believe me, when everybody thought I was stupid, oh, they believe me now, which is just funny. But during it,
You've got to
I,
forgive them for that, though, haven't you? I
I
mean,
do. Oh, yes, I do. Because I said before, I was the biggest atheist. You couldn't tell me anything. So it was quite, the Father uses the ones who were probably at that place the most. It's like, how many really bad criminals does he completely change? And they've really changed. And they're the ones that are the biggest witnesses of all, because they were into the worst things, do you
mhm.
know?
Well,
And
Paul's the perfect example of that.
mm,
That's the plus. That's
yeah,
the point of Paul's journey and message, isn't it? Um,
yeah,
I do feel
yeah, I
like
feel a
in
bit
many
like
ways,
that.
I feel like I'm the same. I think many new born again Christians who weren't like raised in the church all have a checkered past, or all
Yes,
come from the worst positions or situations, often from an anti-God position as well.
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
that radical transformation is a testimony to the power of Jesus Christ and God's plan,
Mm,
in many ways. And that transformative moment that we all have, I think that is our power. That's what we've got. That's what we've got. That's the evidence. That's the fruit that we can show people. So you have to look at who I used to be. look at what I am now. And it's kind of,
Um,
that's what we've got. That's what we have. That's how we get reach people.
that's
And obviously
right.
tell spooky ghost stories like this as well, and explain how it's all just demons, and you can use the name of Jesus Christ to defeat them at any second. No fear. We have been
Mm,
given the
mm,
weapons to defend ourselves. The only thing stopping us from using them is ignorance. And
mm.
I think these conversations serve to remind people of that. We're not trying to drum up fear here with these stories. I think if anyone's listening, think we're just trying to scare people.
No,
It's kind of no, no, not at
no.
all. It's kind of we want to give you hope. It's kind of
A
first of all,
lot
you're
of
not
people,
alone.
a lot of people too afraid to speak, and I understand that. I understand. So sometimes it takes just one or two things, and they'll click. It'll click with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be come from the most, weird source. You don't know how the way the Father's going to work this. But we haven't even touched into my psychedelic experiences. We won't do that today.
Maybe that's for another time. A whole other that's that can be a
Yeah.
whole other episode, I'm sure.
Oh
Uh,
boy. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like I said,
absolutely.
I've got another life, that the life before the life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's been really good. Is there anything else that you wanted to know?
Well, the other thing that was really at the end of our list is, you said your family wasn't really on board at first, but they are now. And a
Mm.
big part of my channel is the truth of therapy sessions that kind of help people deal with that the family just doesn't want to listen to them. How did you find, like, you gave touched on it briefly there, but how did you find kind of when you started going down the rabbit holes fully again? Was it
Okay,
tough
my
for
my
you to convince your loved ones, friends, and family, or did you already have some that were already in there with you already? I mean, everyone has a different story for this, I suppose.
number one advice to everybody: don't force it down their throats. I know you get really excited, especially those when you first learn it, and you feel like jumping up and down on the trampoline and yelling it out every time you're up in the air. Please don't think everybody's going to feel the same as you. Um, and don't be offended when they don't, when they don't take to it, because our journeys are all different time. Um, I was a little bit, because we're such a close family, the four of us, that rough and tumble kind of family together, hard loving, hard living. And I thought that I could put them through anything, but I nearly sent them mad and myself the first couple of years because I was so passionate. Um, and my advice is, please be aware that we don't all operate on the same wavelengths, and the Father will show them at the right time. The more quiet you are about it and show it with your behavior, that's what's going to speak. That's your fruit. It's not you can do that all day. The Earth's flat. There's chemtrails. The Illuminati. It they're just going to go too much information, and some of them might believe you on a couple of things and not all things.
Hmm.
That's okay. I mean, everything's okay at the end of the day, because Father's got it. And what I've seen is, because of how the world's evolved now, is why that they know I was telling the truth. And that's all you've got to wait for, because it won't be long and everybody will see anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
don't ram it down people's throats. Like you say, Paul, just relax, have a cup of
Relax, yeah,
coffee,
chill
relax,
out, and
chill, man,
I like the way you
chill.
say it's kind of they're going to find out eventually anyway, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
believe that. I believe that. I think everything's going to get revealed,
that's
and all
happening
you
now.
all you can do is have that early moment where you kind of explode and say, "I know all these things, and you need to know them too," and then inevitably they'll say, "Shut up," and then shut up and wait, okay, because
And then it's go
everything
away. Yeah.
it'll all come to pass, and they'll go, wasn't that guy talking about that like a year ago? Like, what does he know? And then they go back to you and say, what's going on? And they'll ask you because it's like, oh, that guy. They've been thinking about that kind of stuff. Beck was mentioning something about this a year ago. I remember saying this. It's kind of maybe she does know a thing or two, and they do come back, and you're then the go-to source for that extra information. But like I said, do not force it on people. Um, I've got a whole series dedicated to that, the Tips for Truthers
I
series.
know.
But it's
It's so good.
I,
It is
I
so
need to.
good. Yeah.
What's the next
Yeah.
episode going to be? I can't remember what I've got lined up. I think it's something about conspiratainment is not the same as conspiracy theory. That's the next one
Yeah,
because
that's different.
there's a lot of podcasts out there that are not really there to teach you truth, but are kind of there to keep you wrapped in the mystery and to entertain you. They're entertaining you with conspiracy theories. They're not there trying to teach you things and truths and that type of thing. And there's a big
Mm,
difference. The History Channel is a good example of conspiratainment. You know what really happened at Area 51 is kind of like
I
that
hate
type
that
of stuff.
show.
Yeah, but
I hate
that's.
that.
But I think a lot of people don't realize that's not like the tip of the iceberg. That's the sky. It's not even a part of the iceberg. It's not that deep, But I think a lot of people do
Yeah,
think they're getting into like mysteries and conspiracies, watching stuff like that. And the truth is,
yeah,
it's like you haven't even begun. Like you're not even on the iceberg. Like
yeah.
you're chilling on a boat. You know what I mean? You have no idea what's going on, and that's the next tip I've got coming up soon. I'll probably flesh out a lot better than I just did in like 60 seconds there, but yeah, that's another issue I find quite a lot. A lot of documentaries out there on Netflix that people think are deep as well that have nothing to do with what we talk
No,
about. Like they're not
they
going there.
twist. No, they twist everything. No, no.
Absolutely. So, Beck,
I
is there
think
anything you want to say to close this off? Do you want to let people know where maybe they can find you? Any closing messages?
I would like to say that with these new glasses on of the millennial reign, everything is different.
Yeah.
That is my closing statement. And look at things through those millennial rain glasses. And yeah. Where they can find me, I'm pretty slow at the moment. Beck from Oz at YouTube. Beck from
Mm-hmm.
Oz at YouTube. I don't have any other platforms. I didn't muck around with any of those, but I am trying to get back into it. I would like to start live streaming again. I do have a lot to say concerning just biblical stuff. I don't want to talk conspiracy stuff anymore online much. That's why I don't
Mm.
mind coming on and telling you this stuff, getting it out there, and then I can say to people, well, if you want to know what I'm about, just go watch that interview. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, and then get that all out there. But I would like to do my own live show where people can ring in and give their testimonies, their miracles. I want
Mm-hmm.
to I want to get people encouraged and excited about what's happening. We're not going to die. The world's not going to blow up. It's not going to be tribulation like they think. Yeah, we're going to go through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think we got a nice little surprise, you know,
Yeah.
in
The,
store
ki-
for us.
the kingdom's just around the corner. The kingdom is always
Yes.
now as well. The kingdom is within. So yeah, let's live fruitfully and let's
Oh,
tell our stories. Yeah.
oh, the kingdom is in the north.
It's in the north. Are you going to hide that icebreaker? Are you? You go in there. But
Oh, yeah.
we'll see how that all pans out, won't we? That's definitely
Uh,
that's a whole conversation for another time. So Beck, thanks for
that's
doing
right.
this. I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
You did a great job
Thank you.
sharing your testimony. I know it's a lot to get out there. I think the audience can really get something from this as well. And I will close this by playing a song by your son. Do you want to just quickly introduce him and we'll close this out
Yep.
with his music?
Okay, so this is one of the songs, can't remember the ones I sent you, by The Message Gentleman. He's a very accomplished, all-rounder good musician. It's my son.
Excellent, Beck. You must be very proud, but I'll play that for you now. And yeah, thanks for listening. And as always, God
Thank
bless.
you. Bless everyone.
I want you to get together.